Again, my name is Jose Ramirez. I'm the city manager. I want to thank the public for being out here and all those who are participating either via phone or through YouTube Live. Again, this is a town hall meeting. This is not a special meeting or a council meeting. And so the public so no action is going to be taken. We just want to get feedback from the community. We want to educate the community on a program, traffic calming program. Certainly the community can ask questions, and and I'll go ahead and introduce my team that's here, staff that are going to help us present this program to you and then get feedback from you, which we would then take back at a either special meeting or a regularly scheduled council meeting with our council so that they can decide, adopt the program, make adjustments to the program, and of course, since we're talking about possible allocation of funds, how much money we should allocate to the program if they so choose to implement the program and go from there. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce to you, and you can just raise your hand. Our Public Works Director, Anthony Chavarria, is here. We also have Mario Gavea, our City Engineer, and then we also have our Police Chief here, Chris Soria. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to use the screen. So if you guys look at the screen either in front of you or on the side of you, we actually put together a little program, and the program itself is called Traffic Calming Program. But before we actually get into it, let me just give a little bit of background. There's several individuals here in the public, and I know that they've brought up to several years ago, we established the Traffic Safety Committee. So that's a committee that's made up of some residents, stakeholders, our city engineer, our chief of police, and our public works director. And so anytime there's been any issues related to transportation or traffic, basically all that has been funneled through their program. And not to get it confused with a citizen-driven traffic safety committee that organically started up, and they've been having meetings and stuff like that. And then, of course, just regular residents who might have put together a petition, had some issues also along their street. So this is great, being able to have everybody kind of provide some input, share some ideas, and that way our elected officials at the end of the day can make a decision in putting together a program and how to address some of these issues that we have. Question? Apologize. So with us here tonight, and again, because this is not they're here as participants listening. There's no decisions to be made. But let me introduce you to our mayor, Mr. Aguilar, okay, Juan Aguilar. Then we have Gagandeep Kang, Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Garcia, and then Jose Moran, our council member. All right, thank you very much. So we're going to throw some things out there, and then we're going to go through the program. What we've put together is a draft traffic calming program, and we're going to go through every section. And again, this is going to be informal. So because it's informal, you guys can stop us at any time. You can ask some questions, or you can wait until we finish a certain section. We're just going to move along organically, informally. Okay. Any questions before we actually start? I know we have, if there's anybody online, when I say online, I'm talking over the phone, feel free to also chime in. All right, we don't have any at this time. All right. So again, one of the things that transpired that has come before to some of our elected officials has been a lot of speeding along certain streets and the safety aspects associated with that. And so again, that was kind of the precursor of trying to put together some type of program, because residents have been asking, and different people call it different names. Some people say speed bumps, some say speed lumps, some say speed cushions, some say speed undulations, you name it. There's different names. And so we'll talk about some definitions, and then, like I said, we're going to present the program. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So we put together a little table of contents, and this is what we're going to cover tonight. One, we're going to talk about the definition. We put together a purpose, some goals and objectives, policy statements, minimum qualifying criteria, traffic calming request process, a pre-approved traffic calming devices, and trying to educate our public on what's out there. And then we have traffic calming request forms and traffic calming device removal procedure, because believe it or not, sometimes some neighborhoods say we want we want speed bumps or speed lumps or whatever. And then a few years later is, you know what, we don't want them anymore. And so we want to include a procedure for that purpose. And then traffic calming installation application. And then we actually put together a petition form so that you guys can use as part of this process, okay? All right. So first, in terms of definitions, what we mean by traffic calming is a combination of mainly physical measures that reduce the negative effects of motor vehicle use, alter driver behavior, or improve conditions for residents and pedestrians and bicyclists. So pretty clear cut, and so that's what we mean by traffic calming in terms of the definition. Next is a traffic calming device. What is this? Is a specific tool used to calm traffic, such as speed hump, speed bump, or a speed table, a posted sign or legend, or modification to the roadway encouraging drivers, again, to slow down, because right now folks are speeding, especially down Burgundy Street. Okay, and these are just a few of the available traffic calming tools. Otherwise we'd have, big page, but I think folks kind of got a feel for what a traffic calming device is based on this definition. Next, we got traffic calming program. Again, that's what we're trying to establish today, is a comprehensive guidelines and procedures that everybody can follow, and we're all on the same page as we make decisions. So it identifies available traffic calming tools, specifies qualifying criteria, establishes a systematic process for applying for, approving, and installing, again, traffic calming solutions. And then we also have included in here adjacent property owners, which it encompasses the entire street where the perceived issue arose. So what do we mean by that? So, like for instance, Burgundy being such a long street, it's like, okay, do we need to talk to all the different neighbors? And are we talking just those that live along that street, or are we talking about people that live on the next street? Because whatever you do on one street can have impacts somewhere else. So we'll be talking about that, but that kind of gives you a sense of a definition. Quickly, we'll go down to the purpose. The purpose of the traffic calming program is to improve the safety, livability, and quality of life within residential neighborhoods through the use of traffic calming tools. All right, and we say residential neighborhoods because that's really where the issues are happening, and each neighborhood is going to be different than the next. Define a process for evaluating and reporting traffic-related concerns within residential neighborhoods. Identify problem characteristics and potential solutions. Identify the cost of each solution as well as funding sources. Specify the review and approval process for implementation. Provide contact information for additional questions and concerns. So as you can see here, there's many different components, and we need to have all these work together so that we can get the desired outcome. Goals and objectives. The City of Livingston continuously strives to promote overall safety and increase the quality of life for each resident. Vehicles traveling at excessive speeds adversely affect public safety and the general quality of life of our residents. The program seeks to provide a combination of engineering, education, and enforcement tools to minimize these adverse effects and provide a singular process. So you can see here that it's going to take all of us working in unison in order to address issues. And so we have to do a combination of educating, then we have the experts, and then of course our elected officials, so that we can set aside funds to address those issues that arise in those individual neighborhoods. Each neighborhood has unique needs, as I mentioned, and concerns that must be reviewed and considered to ensure that the appropriate solution is applied. In addition to neighborhood concerns, the city must recognize the needs of other users, such as city emergency services, which can be negatively impacted by some traffic calming solutions when trying to respond quickly to an emergency. Final solutions must be balanced, and the needs of emergency responders need to be taken into account. So, I just out of quick curiosity, did anybody think about emergency vehicles? You kind of raise your hand as we were, looking at speed bumps. So we wanted to make sure that that was in here, so that when we make decisions, we take those things in consideration. The specific objectives are: reduce excessive vehicle speeds in residential neighborhoods, promote conditions that encourage walkable neighborhoods, because we heard from several residents, they talked, hey, we can't even walk down our street, and so forth and so on. So wanted to make sure that we talked about walkable neighborhoods. Reduce potential for collisions, of course. Encourage citizen and neighborhood involvement. And that's one of the things that our council has continuously promoted, was civic engagement, getting the community, and therefore why this town hall meeting is taking place. Policy statements. In many cases, complaints related only to vehicle speeds can be adequately addressed solely with additional enforcement. As such, the permanent installation of a device will only be recommended when regular enforcement is deemed to be insufficient. Okay, and we'll go into this because we have a schematic of how all this is going to work. Okay, so we're not saying that the only thing we're going to do is enforce in your respective neighborhoods. No, there's a process. Requests will progress through a multi-step process, beginning with the enforcement and education before advancing to larger, more aggressive, and expensive solutions. This ensures that a cost-effective solution is applied and doesn't unnecessarily impact the local traffic. Minimum qualifying criteria. Since the purpose of the program is to address issues on local streets within residential neighborhoods, a list of minimum qualifying criteria has been developed to ensure that requests are limited only to those sections of the street for which traffic calming devices are included. Design of traffic calming devices. All devices will be designed and installed utilizing sound engineering practices. Each device listed within this program has been pre-approved for use on city streets by the city engineer. Requests for devices not listed in this program will require a separate review and a review process. So I'll just kind of stop right there real quick and allow our city engineer to elaborate a little bit more in terms of, devices. Here's a mic.
All right. So there's a variety of devices that can be used. Some more common ones are speed feedback signs, and I'm sure you've seen them. They basically pick up your speed and feed it back to you. So there's a posted speed limit, and then there's your speed. Some of them, if you're going so many miles over the speed limit, it'll flash it back to you, or some say slow down. So those are common devices used. There's radar trailers that law enforcement uses, and the advantage of those is they're mobile, so they can use them on one street and then move it to another one, and focus on areas where the issues are or perceived to be. There are, of course, the cushions or bumps or humps. There's a bunch of different names and configurations for those, and those are physical features on the pavement that just slow you down when you go over them. So there's a variety of those. So in a nutshell, those are the more common ones. And I think we'll go over that a little bit more in detail here in a little bit.
Be going, but the important piece here that I wanted to convey is that we're using sound engineering practice, so it wasn't something that we just went over to our neighborhood hardware store and picked something out from the shelf. You know?
Right. Yeah. Those are all MUTCD compliant and Caltrans compliant, so everybody basically uses those.
All right. Fantastic. So we'll go back up to that section, and we'll, like I said, we'll cover a little bit more in detail a little later. Sure.
The signs and the radar signs, do they make those to where they actually take a picture of the license plate and you give the ticket?
Yeah, there's a variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a variety of.
There you go.
There's a variety of those feedback signs.
Recording purposes, so for the record.
You entered access code 156811.
Our only caller dropped off, so let's see what's going on here. I'm in. Okay, here we go.
There you go. Probably, yeah.
Yes.
Probably.
The signs and radar deterrents that flash the speed limit, I was asking if they make those with cameras that actually take pictures so you can actually give them tickets, because
The answer is yes. There's a variety of those. There's the simple ones that basically just flash back your speed. Some that actually send a message, like the slow down type of thing, or you're going way, too fast, drive too fast. To the ones that actually have cameras, and they actually store the information. Some of them transmit them directly to some database, which normally is some sort of law enforcement. So there's a myriad of devices with all kinds of capabilities. Of course, the fancier you get, the more expensive they are. That I'll defer to law enforcement. Yeah.
All right.
You want to answer that?
I think for the most part, what you see throughout California is most of those devices are put in intersections. But there's a lot more that goes to that and is associated with it. I mean, not only do you put up the devices in the intersections, but then you have to have personnel who actually have to deal with that process. So it's a lot more in-depth than actually what I believe what we're speaking with today. We're trying to do something that's quick, that's probably feasible for the city, and I think that probably should work. Hopefully it works. So at that point, hopefully we can somehow get this adopted in a near future and go ahead and start addressing some of the issues that we're obviously having. And I think most of them are probably in the thoroughfares within the residentials. Not that we're having problems at the stop signs at intersections, because we do. But for right now, I think the big thing is addressing the issues within certain parts of the community that where we need to slow down traffic. But that is something that obviously that the city can look at. But again, that is probably a bigger cost than what we're actually talking about today. So.
Well, good question. Thank you for asking. So that brings us to neighborhood support. This is very important. So the installation of any device will require strong neighborhood support from residents living on or adjacent to the affected street segments. In addition, neighbors beyond this section of street will be notified prior to the approval of any application to provide them the opportunity to express their support or concerns. And then if we implement anything, any of these speed bumps or, any type of device, there might be a chance that on-street parking might be affected. So depending on the specified location of the installation, the removal of some on-street parking spaces may be required. Doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, but it might affect some parking. Costs. And this is an area, as I mentioned early on, and as we begin this meeting, that we'll be looking at council to adopt a program and then put some funding to actually put some of these traffic calming measures in place. I have some really good news to report. The good news is I did check in with, you guys are all familiar with Measure V. Measure V is a measure that it's implemented within the county, and we get a certain allocation because of sales tax for road improvements. So we can actually use some Measure V funds for that. And so if council, we typically, per year, we get about $360,000 approximately. And of that amount, council does a lot of, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and street repairs. So once the council gets, this is presented to council, council can decide how much money of that total can be put towards this program. And costs, and our city engineer can talk about this, but let's say that we can, there's a range of about $5,000 to $15,000 plus, depending on what kind of traffic calming measures are implemented in a specific street. And so you could see if they allocate, I don't know, I'll just pick a number, say $60,000, boom, it can be chewed up pretty quickly. Maintenance. The city shall be responsible to maintain the devices upon successful installation of the life of the devices. And that, again, that's what we're recommending, and council would have the ultimate say on that. Appeals. If the Traffic Safety Committee does not approve an application, then the applicant can, within 30 days, appeal the decision to my office for review. And so again, right now we have a Traffic Safety Committee. Everybody knows that we have a city Traffic Safety Committee, correct? Okay. So, and it's made up of, again, the city engineer, the police chief, our public works director, and some other folks that the council appointed. So I think it's pretty robust. I think it's, this allows, these programs are not going to conflict. They're going to be all working together. So I don't anticipate any problems. Again, removal, we talked a little bit about the removal. I think it's important that we incorporate something like that because they do happen, not often, but it does. But then the key is going to be, okay, how many months after installation? You don't want to spend, say, $30,000 and then, 6 months later say, well, we don't want it. We got to come up with something. So I just kind of put in as a placeholder 2 X's for the amount of months. And then what percentage of property owners does the petition that the opposite of your petition would need in order to take it out? Those are some decisions that we need to grapple with and think about. Any questions on the removal? Or recommendations? Yeah, that's a good point. Recommendations here. Or is removal not even an option? You get it, and that's it. Let me give you the microphone. Here we go.
I was just stating that I wouldn't see anything wrong with increasing that percentage so that a higher amount, just because it is going to be such a large cost for the city. And there was a lot of probably a lot of effort going into and support to install them. So I think a 75% is decent, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was not significantly higher, but marginally higher from that point on.
Okay. So just everybody, what this means is you would, in order to remove it, you would need to go out and get 75% of property owners, not renters, property, people who own the property, to put a petition to take it out once it's in, and then pick a time frame of when that should take place.
But that's people affected by that one. You can't just go to every household in the town, right?
That's correct. It's just that area, that neighborhood, that section of the street. Anthony?
And one thing the city does still need to investigate on what particular funds are used. If, say, we use Measure V funds, we may not be able to remove them. So that's something that the city will have to explore a little further.
What he means by that is this. Measure V funds is for improvements, okay? And so if you're improving, can you use that same money to disimprove, for any reason, the street? So yeah, we have to check into that. Thank you, Anthony, for bringing that up.
Jose, quick question over here. Can you share a little bit of information in regards to when and how and why were previous speed bumps removed in the past? What were some of the reasons?
Yes. One is that one of the reasons why people, because this is a controversial thing, some people like speed bump, others don't like speed bumps. But some of the speed bumps in the past, and again, we're going to be talking about what type of speed bumps are going to be installed, because what was happening is that there were speed bumps and people would basically, if there was no cars parked along the segment of the street, they would basically bypass the speed bump. Okay, so they wouldn't even go over the speed bump because they would just basically make their way around. And then there was other types of speed bumps where there was enough groove in between where they can, go in the middle of the street and also bypass it. And then there was others that didn't want speed bumps because several cars that were lower were losing their catalytic converter, their muffler, and there was a lot of claims. And so there's different reasons on why, people at the end say, we don't want the speed bumps. Yeah. Yeah, they steal this. Yeah, we have that problem. You just stand right next to and you can collect catalytic converters. So we'll come back and we'll make a recommendation in terms of how many months, and then we'll increase the percentage of property owners, okay? To, 85%? All right, for a placeholder, we'll put 90 then for now. All right. We'll continue here. This one is really key. This is the minimum qualifying criteria, and we certainly would like to get your input here. All right. Traffic calming works best when it is applied to specific types of streets and specific situations. Applying traffic calming devices inappropriately can result in adverse effects to the general traveling public, including an increase in driver frustration, reduced response times for emergency services, and increased wear and tear on vehicles. The following is a list of primary qualifying criteria that ensures that traffic calming solutions are limited only to streets addressing residential neighborhood concerns. Okay? And that's really where the complaints have come from, is residential neighborhoods. When the applicant submits an application, they will specify a section of street for the addition of traffic calming devices. That section of street must, and again, we put these 5 things together, and we would like to get your input. Have a functional classification of a local residential street. 2, have an existing speed limit of 25. How many here know that all residential streets is 25 miles per hour? All right, except the guy speeding. Okay. All right, good. Be defined by the intersection of a cross street on either end, except for a cul-de-sac, which will only have a cross street at one end. Now, keep in mind that there's going to be some exceptions here because it's my understanding in reviewing, is it Burgundy? Okay, that's a long street and it has a cul-de-sac. Okay, so that would be like an exception. Okay, so the traffic safety committee would have to come up with some creative ways. Question over there, Mayor?
So what do you consider a long cul-de-sac?
No, if you look on here, it says that we're talking about except for a cul-de-sac, which only has one cross street at one end. And what we're saying is that in this case, Burgundy is a pretty long street and it has a cul-de-sac. So that street would be an exception that the traffic safety committee would have to take into account.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I live on a cul-de-sac personally, and there's, 14 houses on one side of it, and that's half the reason why me and half my neighbors are here is because we stand out in front and see people speeding all the time down to the deep end of the cul-de-sac. Kinoshita Court. It's in the Manzanita Legacy, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so that's why I mentioned there's exceptions because
Kinoshita? Yeah.
That's the main reason we're here is we all live on that new side. But you know where the model homes are for Manzanita. I don't know why, because it's faster to go down Hammett, but it seems like everybody likes to cut through the neighborhood to get to Olive. Yeah.
Yeah, so instead of going straight down Hammond, you can ride a left or right, they'll cut through, you know, because they know something or whatever, so they'll cut through and they'll hammer it all the way to the south. They exit by the well? Yeah.
Yes.
Right by the well.
Yep. That's not almost, you guys have a map where you.
Yeah, right now, the well out there, it's got a lot of construction.
Okay, well, this is why it's good to have good feedback, okay? So what we can do is basically do a case-by-case under this section, okay? And then, because the Traffic Safety Committee will take all those things into account, okay? Moving on to item 4, be at least 500 feet in length, not total length of street, just the section. And engineering and police chief can share with you why the 500 feet, as an example. Don't jump at one. I mean, I could do all the talking, but come on. They don't want to hear my voice the whole time.
Okay. Yeah, one of the main reasons is the total length is obviously, probably for the obvious reasons, is because
It's for the TV.
Okay. Okay. Probably one of the main reasons is that, again, you were talking about it's a little bit shorter when they make that cut over there, and there's other things that we can look at as we go on through this presentation as to things that we can do and how we can look and justify whatever we may do in that specific location. But one of the main things is main streets with that long length, that's where people most likely are going to speed because they're obviously going to pick up, you know, they got a straightaway, and we have to put something in that middle to try to slow them down, because those are probably most of the complaints that I get are on those main thoroughfares where, well, even though Burgundy's not a thoroughfare, they obviously turn right down there on, I think it's Pinot, I think it is. I don't know what the street is exactly, but they pick up speed, and that's where the speeding mainly occurs. So we want to keep it to where, for the most part, those main long streets to where we can somehow get the speed to slow down, and that's mainly where it's occurring is the long streets. I mean, all over for the most part. Yeah. Yeah. No, but there's
1,200 feet, and they get up to 50, 60 miles an hour.
Oh, no, I know they do. But as we go on, there's other things that we can do. Again, we can make exceptions. We can look at as the presentation goes on, the things that we can end up doing to see what's going on in that street. Okay, if it's just one, if it's just two vehicles, but like I said, I'll get ahead of myself. But the things that we'll end up doing as the committee, and we're not just going to we get something and say, okay, this is what we're doing. There's a process that we're going to have to go through to go and look and justify the actions that we're going to propose. So,
Question in the back?
So it sounds like we're discussing some of the criteria, but it's not a set thing. It's pretty flexible, and it just depends to the committee. Because I live on Briarwood, and there's, I don't know how long it is, but where I see the speeding is between Montclift and F Street, because I live in front, just after Montclift, I see speeding all the time. And so what I'm understanding is it's not a set criteria. We're gonna put a petition, and it is up to the traffic committee to see if it would work or if it wouldn't work. Correct? Okay. Thank you.
yes. Yes.
Yeah, this is a draft. This is just trying
Not
to
like
get...
a set, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
And while we're on that, Chief, if you want to go ahead and cover the 8...
So on Oki, it's a small street, right? We were all, and when I say we, I mean us four, and then two there in the front. We're all outside. We all have conversations amongst neighbors, right? When was it? Monday? Tuesday? Monday or Tuesday, a Maserati came down Wakami, or what? Yeah, from Hammett to cut through to go down Oki. He came through, and we all told him to slow down, right? And he stopped at the stop sign and kind of gunned it a little bit, and he was on his way. Not even 20 minutes later, he came back down the same street, opposite side of we were at, right? Kind of slowed down, dropped it into a lower gear, and then took off, right? On purpose, so we can see what he's doing. So regardless of it being a small street, we have that type of stuff going on. And I know that may be an exception. I'm giving you guys the feedback.
No, I hear you.
Yeah. Mario, you in town that day?
This is on, right? It's on, right? Oh, okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that guy and the bunch of cars I see, late at night, this is every day, every night now. It used to be just weekends. Now it's on F Street. I even saw them side by side. Like, you can imagine how dangerous that is. They do it from 9:45 all the way to midnight. And I know you guys are doing your job because I've seen the officers. They had, like 2 weeks ago, last week, they flew people over there. I think the more tickets they get, it'll deter more of them, but it's a team. They race down there, then they go to Robin and the Joseph Gallo. It's not just regular speeders. I mean, they're all speeders, but racing is the biggest problem we have, I think, in town. And I think he's part of the, not you, I'm talking about the white Maserati. So that's the biggest, I don't want to take up, I mean, we all get the point, I think, so.
No, I hear you. I know
great
exactly
feedback.
what's going on. Yes.
Yeah, great feedback. So why don't you jump into the ADT, at least 800 vehicles, what that means?
Oh, okay, number 5, have an average daily traffic of at least 800 vehicles. And again, this is open to discussion. One of the things that we're going to have to do, like I was just saying to somebody a minute ago, is when you guys or whoever comes in because of an issue within your area, one of the things that what we will do is obviously there's certain criteria that will go out. We'll look at the area. There's surveys that we can do to see what's actually going on within that city. So that is, again, open to discussion, but we're looking right now that we got to have at least so many vehicles driving through there to kind of meet this criteria, if that kind of makes sense. So, and again, that's open. I mean, because you guys are more or less talking about like 1, 2, maybe the same guy. Yes, yeah. Yes. Yes. Well,
Here's the microphone.
Sorry about that. All right, well, we'll continue. In addition to what the chief, question.
And I mean, since some people know that you guys are short on officers right now too, they take that as an advantage too to be speeding. And I agree with what people are saying too, that this isn't just roads that are long roads. It's, on other short roads too, like Purcell. I saw a neighbor of mine that had got his car really crashed because that person was driving 80 miles per hour. And I asked him, did you go to law enforcement about this? And he said, yeah, but.
No, I hear you and I sympathize because where I live, it's the same thing. I mean, it's constant. And as cities get bigger, you get a bigger population, things are like that are unfortunately going to happen. We try to do what we can do. But like on this instance, if we know where this guy lives, and I don't know if this has been done, please let me know. I'll go over there and let him know what I know. And if it continues, what could happen? Maybe it might not. But there's things that we can do that we can try to get this person, especially if it's one person we know who it is.
No, but my biggest thing is the people that don't belong in the
Yes.
subdivision shouldn't be cutting through the subdivision.
No, I hear you.
And that's the traffic that needs to
Yes.
stop.
Well, that's where I mean, you still can put in for that. We're going to have to look at it and go from there because it could meet a criteria because based on just, I mean, you have a ton of traffic flowing through there. So, I mean, those are things there's things that we still can do, and that's what we're doing here today, yeah.
So, in regards to what you just said about where he lives,
Yeah.
I won't give you an address, but if you go down Hammett, the second street to your right, look at the first house, the Maserati's parked right there. I'm just saying. I'm not giving you an address.
You got it. I'll be knocking on his door tomorrow. I will.
It wasn't Mario. I guess it's not you, Mario. All right, well, great.
Can we go back to number 5 on the criteria of the 800? That's a lot. So is there a way that it could be more, instead of a minimum of 800 vehicles passing through the road, more around how much speeding is actually happening in this street. So doing a survey, and I know surveys are a whole nother thing too, but just, I don't know, somehow, some way checking. I don't know if 800 vehicles pass through Briarwood. I do know that it's a shortcut for a lot of people that live on like 2nd Street, Prusso, and then on the other houses across from Peach. But I would like for that to look a little different, and I don't know if people here agree with me.
You can have 800 cars or 8 cars, but if all 8 cars are the ones doing it, that's the problem.
Well, everything's going to be, again, case by case. And we're not going to be kept to one thing because, again, based on whatever survey or whatever we do, that will tell us what's going on out there. I know you guys live out there. However, these things that we deploy, and actually we're going to end up purchasing, people won't know what they are, and they won't know what's going on out there. So that's probably one of the biggest things is kind of like our radar trailers. People see that, some people slow down, but it's not going to be anything like that. So we're going to get an accurate reading of actually how many cars, how fast they're going, and how often. And we'll base our decisions on a lot of that criteria, a lot of that data. So it won't just be like one thing. If we get a lot of cars, it may not be 800, but they're well over the speed limit, then that's something that we obviously have to take in consideration.
Okay.
Yes.
So that research will go into effect once a petition is, or a request is submitted to the traffic committee? Or is that something that you'll be doing before anybody submitting anything?
No, we'll do that when you actually submit something.
Okay.
And it's something it's a really quick process that we can do. Yes.
So if you can see right below the number 5, it says, in addition to primary criteria, if the request is related to speed, a traffic survey will be conducted and the data will be analyzed, incrementally. And so if you can just imagine in your mind, it's kind of like the bell-shaped curve, but it's not the bell-shaped curve in terms of, just like you said, you can have 8 cars and all 8 cars could be speeding. That's going to tell us when we analyze the data, it's like, oops, we're going to have to go this route. Or it could be 100 cars, there's 100 cars and 75 of those cars are a mile or 2 above the speed limit, and those other 25 are, crazy, or only 5. Good data that we can, analyze. This information basically becomes public once it's analyzed. Yes, absolutely. So here we go. Here's the step number 1 that we wanted you guys to take a look at. So the applicant shall complete a traffic calming request form and submit it to the Livingston Police Department Traffic Safety Committee. This submission shall serve to notify the Traffic Safety Committee, which some of them are in here. Okay. On-site issues and allow for targeted enforcement on a week-to-week basis, and we'll clarify what that means, prior to physical changes within the roadway. So based on different conditions, and the chief can elaborate on this, and Mario too, what a week-to-week basis means.
Yeah. So we get a request form. Obviously, depending on the scenario, it's not going to be automatic, let's go out, put stuff up. So we're going to try to deal with the issue with, like we say, targeted enforcement. Go out there. We'll have officers out there, either radar, whatever it may be, radar trailers, things to try and slow it down. Things that we also can do is prior to actually doing that, we can do a quick survey to see what's going on out there, do the targeted enforcement, then check again at a later date to see whether or not it's being effective or not. But I know, as always, and this question is probably going to come up, is, well, once you leave, they start back up again. So it's something that obviously we're going to have to keep on hand and somewhat keep going back out. And this is probably another thing where our officers or whoever, which I will put somebody actually overseeing that, so they can continually talk to whoever's in that neighborhood, to try to get as much feedback from them to see whether or not it's still coming back or not, or we still need to keep going back out there to try to keep calming it down, depending on what goes from there, depending on where we go from there.
Yeah, and of course, be here, and you guys know where the Maserati guy lives, so that's number 2. Visit the known offender. Okay, so that's on there. Then temporarily setting up a radar speed trailer, as we talked a little earlier. Sampling speed and volume data, which again is that survey and looking at data. Other enforcement strategies deemed appropriate for that situation. And then you were asking, we put a little asterisk there. Please note that any information gathered through the course of these efforts is a public record and available to any member of the public upon filing a request. So, yeah. Any questions on any of those before we move on?
I have a question.
Sure.
So the radar and the trailers and the officers, checking this, do we have those resources right now to do all these things?
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that we're going to purchase a new one, because the one we got kind of tanked, is the new the new survey, because now it has Bluetooth and it has all these fancy things, and that's just to do the traffic survey.
Yeah, we're going to end up getting the traffic data collector. The radar trailer, it's good. We actually put a new board. I don't know if anybody saw it within the last year. It was kind of like the numbers were all off, but we actually fixed it. So it's all working. It's all working good. And actually, I'm going to end up getting another one that I'll be picking up. I went to go pick it up today, but my hitch didn't work. But Public Works is going to pick that up Monday, so we will have another on hand. So there'll be 2 of them.
Yeah, those things, those data collectors are not cheap. They're like $2,500 to $3,000. All right. If after a continuous targeted enforcement period of at least 30 days, the Traffic Safety Committee notes that the original reported problem persists, they will revisit the issue and convene another TSC meeting to render a decision along with any other relevant supporting data that they gleaned during that specified period and continue the next step. In the event that the enforcement efforts are deemed successful, the Traffic Safety Committee, of course, then it's done for that moment until the problem pops up again later on. Step number 2, initiate traffic calming study. The Traffic Safety Committee shall notify the applicant upon receiving a traffic calming request form, as well as confirm that the next step in the process would be to complete that traffic calming study, and that's where those machines that we mentioned to you will be used. And again, within 30 days of receipt of that application, they're going to review any speed and volume information, perform an on-site review of the area, make recommendations for the installation of 1 or more devices, and then within 15 days of the completion, as outlined, shall provide, in writing to the applicant of the findings and recommendations. So again, we're trying to make it smooth and less cumbersome. And again, that doesn't mean that some of these steps, because of new information that was brought in or known, whether by the department or by the public, that some of these steps can't be jumped, okay? We're just kind of putting these out there so that people at least have a flow. Step number 3, complete a traffic calming installation application. Complete and submit a no-cost, you guys like that, a traffic calming installation application to the Traffic Safety Committee. The submission must include the following: the applicant form itself specifying the specific traffic calming option proposed for installation, approval, signatures of at least, and again, this is just a placeholder. I just put in there a percentage, and we can talk about that so we can get some feedback from what percentage of adjacent property owners do you want approval signatures? And I'll open it up at this point. This is for approval that you guys want the traffic calming device on your street. Because to try to get 100%, it'd be pretty tough.
Yeah, and I think especially for a community like Livingston, having 75% of property owners, especially like somewhere in my neighborhood, that's going to be extremely difficult because I happen to live in a community where the property owners don't live there. So the residents are, long-term residents are primarily affected, property owners like myself and longtime property owners as well, have expressed the same concern, but in a neighborhood like mine, it's going to be difficult for me to communicate, make contact with somebody who has probably never even set foot in the home. So I'd ask that that be taken into consideration.
Well, we're open to suggestions. I just threw that in there just for conversation purposes.
Maybe a certain percentage of property owners, where maybe a certain percentage of residents could, also be taken into consideration. Not necessarily property owners, but the residents and, the length of their residency within the neighborhood as well could be factored in.
The challenge that the city will have is that you can have a difference of opinion between the property owner and the actual renter. So we can lower the percentage, and I think it'll be easier to meet that threshold than trying to divide renters versus property owners. I'm just throwing it out just for conversation.
2%?
50%?
Just like my milk?
To me, whether you own the house or you live in the house, like if you, for example, somebody has a rental house, they don't really care what happens in their street as long as they're getting their monthly check for the house. So to me, it's whoever resides at that house. It's their issue.
Yeah.
Not the homeowner's issue.
Yeah. I'm not here. I don't want to I agree with you. We're just kind of looking at it from the lens of the city in terms of some of the issues that can arise. It's kind of like the utility rates. It's the votes are by parcel versus by the people who are renting. And but anyways, we'll talk to legal a little bit about this. But for now, we can explore that. Renters, a certain percentage of renters, and the key is like on your street, it might be very different on somebody else's street, and so we're trying to simplify it and make it easy. So my suggestion would be to lower the percentage of property owners so that you can meet that threshold versus trying to get renters and non-renters. 2%. Okay, I'll tell council that you guys want 2%. All right, so we'll take that into consideration there. And again, the next one is just, folks can email it, can fax it over, can deliver it in person, and just put attention, Traffic Safety Committee. The application will be briefly reviewed for completeness. Incomplete forms such as those that haven't completed step 2, don't meet the minimum requirements listed above, or missing other key pieces of information will not be accepted. Within 30 days of receipt of this form, the Traffic Safety Committee will schedule a public hearing to solicit feedback from the neighborhood and community. The city shall follow standard public noticing. So let me clarify what this means. So once we get to that point where we're going to be looking at the possibility of installing something, the city will basically notify those folks that are going to be affected in that corridor, and they'll get a notice, and they can participate like you guys are doing tonight or not. It's up to them. Within 30 days, let's see here, within 10 business days following the public hearing, the Traffic Safety Committee shall contact the applicant in writing to advise of the approval or disapproval of the proposed project. If not approved, a reason will be provided. Applicants may appeal a denial within 30 days for consideration to the city manager's office. Number 6, if approved, the city will proceed with the construction and installation of the traffic calming devices. Project is incomplete. And again, when we present this program to the council, they will decide on how much they would like to appropriate for these type of projects in the given year. And if they appropriate, let's say, $80,000, and there was 4 projects, and let's say each project was, totaled $80,000, there's no more money, then folks can wait until the next year, or the council can look at changing the line item and moving some money and stuff like that. All right. And we started earlier this evening talking about, pre-approved traffic calming devices. We don't have to necessarily go over those again, but just to repeat at least what some of these are. The chief mentioned, and Mario, our engineer, talked about the speed radar trailer. And then there's also radar speed feedback signs as an example. And we kind of just threw in there some things about advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so we don't necessarily have to go over that. And then this photo here kind of shows you what we mean. We just named it speed undulations. Okay, but similar to speed bumps, except that they are divided into 3 sections with 1 foot of space in between each section. These gaps are specifically spaced to accommodate the wider axle widths of fire engines. All other vehicles with smaller axle widths have to go over the speed lumps with at least one side of the vehicle. So again, cars can't just go around them, and we have an actual detail on what kind of speed bumps to install. And here it is. Here's just kind of a detail on what it is. And again, Mario, you might want to talk a little bit about approximation of what something like this would cost.
There you go. Is it on? Yeah, these are normally done out of asphalt concrete, so they're actually built into the pavement. So they're a little more expensive to build. Some of our neighboring cities do have those. And to do 2 sets of those, you're probably looking at $15,000, $20,000. And I know pavement is going up fast, so I'm not quite sure what they would cost today, but they're not cheap.
Well, sheet metal last week was $4.45 a linear foot. This week they're $7.09 a linear foot.
Right, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, now we're getting quotes on a daily basis for materials. So it's, yeah.
So again, we just wanted to show you a detail of what one of these would look like. And here's something in real life of how it kind of looks like.
Yeah, they look just like that.
Yeah.
They actually are, if you go speed limit over those, you can feel them, but they're fairly smooth.
And there could be some medium islands around, so we included those here as well. Again, you could see the median, and then you see the smaller undulations on both sides. And then we're including, we came up with some forms, so it's pretty simple. Name, address, physical address, mailing address, phone number, and then you guys get to check on there if it's excessive speed, excessive volume, or both, or something different. And then if you look down below, it says, though my signature below, I am requesting the city, through my signature below, I'm requesting that the city to conduct a targeted enforcement, perform on-site reviews and studies as warranted, and make recommendations for potential traffic calming solutions along that section of the street. So very, very simple. Doesn't take too much. I can work on that. Yeah.
Proficient,
Oh, no problem. I will take care of that personally, so that's not a problem. All right. We talked a little bit about the traffic calming devices removal procedure. I don't know if you guys wanted to talk a little bit more about that, but if you guys have some ideas on terms of the amount of months after it's been installed, when it can be removed. Typically, what I've seen is about, 60 months or 5 years, but it could be whatever we want,
I think it's reasonable that that month not be a little bit for if you have an extended period of time. I'm sorry. I think that it would be reasonable that that period there be an extended period of time, simply because, as the engineers pointed out, that it is a significant cost to the city, and we would want to make sure that we would actually want them installed to make sure to see that they're being effective. We wouldn't be able to do that over a 3-6 month period of time anyway.
So what do you guys think about 60 months then? That work?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that input. All right, we'll keep going. This is a traffic calming installation application, pretty much same as the other one. It just has a little more information because we talk about the petition of property owners. So I have attached a petition to this application that contains the names, signatures, and addresses of all real property owners, not renters, that own property that fronts or has a side yard, the section of street for which these improvements shall be made. This petition shall also provide a statement indicating the description of the proposed improvements and their proposed locations. I, as lead applicant, request that the installation of traffic calming devices are stated as above. And then there's a signature. And then below, I put that little petition form for you. So all you have to do is, we will provide you a copy, and then you can, get the address, name, if they approve, not approve, and then you can make extra copies. And any questions on this? Yeah, once council formally adopts this program, then we'll upload it on to our website, or you can email us, we'll email it to you, or you can come to City Hall. Either way, any way you want, we'll get it to you. It'll be very easy and accessible. And again, this is really what encompasses, we didn't want to make it this thick and, with all this, we try to make it simplified. And so this is basically the end of the program. So we have a three-step process. Again, the processes can be jumped. The traffic committee, we're going to look at things on a case-by-case basis. We'll look at coming up with recommending to council and asking them how much they would like to how much money they would like to put towards the program. And it can be up and running, I would say, in a month if the council so chooses. And if you have questions later on and you don't have any now, you can still reach out to us, and we're more than happy. We have questions?
By when do we expect this to be taken to council?
We can have this. I'm sure that more than likely we'll have a special council meeting between now and June 1st. If not, June 1st is our next regularly scheduled meeting. And so let's just say June 1st. But if we have a special council meeting, we can look at having it added as an item. Mm-hmm. So we'll just make a few little tweaks in there, like I said, the how many months for removal. I'll put as a placeholder, 2%, but council can of course modify that higher. And I think that was pretty much it. I think everything else we were pretty much on the same page, correct? Those are all the notes that I had. Any other questions? Otherwise, this is the program that we're recommending. The council meetings are all public, whether they're special or regularly scheduled. The only thing that is not open to is if there's a closed session. But before the closed session, after the closed session, and during the regularly scheduled meeting, it's open to the public.
So this is kind of a specific question to my situation or my neighborhood, but since I've already formally petitioned the city for traffic calming devices, would I need to start the process all over again?
No, we don't have a program in place right now, and you can submit it directly to, I think you already did, to the Traffic Safety Committee, so they can move on that. So yeah, no, the answer is no.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, you guys were very, very helpful. I appreciate your guys' time and thoughts and ideas, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. And any other Maseratis you guys see out there, certainly let the chief know, okay?
And then, just real quick, on behalf of the city council, thank you guys for coming out, and we appreciate all the feedback. You know, let people know, run the word that we're doing this program so we could get some more input into it and other areas of concern. So thank you for coming.